Hello and welcome to 10 Days in Tokyo with the Running Channel podcast. We're out in Japan. It is so exciting. It is also so hot. And for the last 5 days, we have been sweating, Rick in particular, more than I've ever seen.
I'm just so happy to be in a studio with you two in a dry shirt for the first time in a week.
The aircon is really working hard this week. But this is part 1 of 2 where we will be recapping the first 5 days of our time in Tokyo.
And we've been enjoying the athletics, but also everything that Japan and Tokyo itself has to offer. And we're out here thanks to ASICS. So let's get into it.
Should we give a bit more context as to kind of what we're aiming to do over the next...
Yes.
Well, actually, let's address that too. It's 9 days, but Rick wouldn't let us say 9.
It just doesn't have the ring of 10 days
Well,
in
you
Tokyo.
introduced it saying 9 days. There are 9 days of competition out here, but you were so desperate that we had to agree to call it 10 days in Tokyo.
Yeah, so
which technically we
are.
are, we're here for 11 days, so it's just all a lie.
But
we're rounding.
Yeah. 10
like
days
Rick
in Tokyo.
does with his height.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5'11" and a half.
I am 6 foot. It's all right. I am 6 foot.
But over the next few days, what we want to bring you isn't
She wouldn't have married me if I was 5'11".
Sorry, yeah, Chantal, he is 6 foot. But don't worry, we've measured it. We've checked that. Do not fear. Over the next few days, we want to bring you the kind of the behind the scenes, the stuff that you might not see, the questions that might not usually get asked. We want to, if you've never watched elite athletics before, we want to give you an insight into this world because it is so fun to watch and fun to experience. But also, we just want you to be as excited as we are.
Yeah.
Do you want to know another fun fact
that
I learned yesterday? In the pole vault, there's a little wind machine near where they run.
It's like a windsock, like they have at an airport.
Yeah, like a windsock. And I said to Andy, why have they got a windsock? And apparently, so they have a minute when they're there with their pole that they can take their go any time during that minute, and a lot of athletes will wait until the little wind thingy is dropped and then they'll go, so there's no wind interference. Magic.
That is incredible.
Isn't that cool?
Do you know how long...
And it might not happen because it might just be windy permanently, but at least
you
obviously, a side wind for a pole vault could be pretty dangerous. So, I've not done the pole vault, but I imagine therefore they need to just be aware that the wind is blowing.
What, you've not done the pole vault?
No.
I think you'd be sick at the pole vault.
I think
people could use you as the pole.
Been for a run yet, Rick?
No.
No.
I don't think it's a good idea.
How far did you run today?
Oh, I ran just over 17 kilometres.
Yeah, I ran 10 miles. How far did you run, Rick?
Listen.
Was it to the platform when we got on the wrong train when it took us an hour to get to the
then
podcast studio rather than 24 minutes because you were in charge of directions and you took us on the wrong train?
Correct.
And we went further away from the studio rather than going closer to it.
Correct.
Yeah,
you have to prioritise things. I woke up at 8 o'clock and I thought I could go for a run, just rolled over and had another hour.
No, I will pull you up on that. There is no way on earth that the thought, should I go for a run or could go for a run, came into your mind.
It's probably
you're in bed at 8 a.m.
This is the thought process. What could I be doing right now? Well, I could be plotting world domination. I could be plotting going for a run. I could
be looking for spas in Tokyo.
I could be finding the best Guinness nearby in an Irish pub. But at no point did you ever seriously consider any of those.
I did find a great rooftop bar for us to go to. And also, I realised that Japan is a wonderful country to be forgetful. So I forgot some cosmetic produces coming here. But at the entrance to the lift...
Yeah, we had a baggage weight limit, didn't we? There was no way. You couldn't bring 23 kilograms of face product.
But speaking of Botox, look at this.
Andy's just not going to...
Sarah, describe what I'm holding.
So we went to ASICS House, which is at the Japanese Olympic Museum, and there they have lots of different things going on. One thing
There's an amazing caricaturist.
A caricaturist.
Sarah's chin has disappeared.
But no, all of my chin has gone into my forehead.
I have completely grey hair. I look about 100 years old.
You look like Andy.
Barry McGuigan. Do you know?
Yes, I do. The boxing pundit.
Boxing pundit, yeah.
It looks like, when you get a story time book and it's like, here's Andy. He's going to tell you a fable from 200 years ago when he was first born. Andy had a big night last night.
Yeah.
Andy had an average size
night. We got to the
night.
stadium. Andy was meeting us at the stadium separately. We get to our seats. We sit down. Me, Tom, Owen, Rick. We get some drinks in. Andy's nowhere to be seen. No, 2 hours later... He toddles. He'd been networking. Which I think means drinking quite a lot of beer with the guys from Believe in the Run.
That's true. I teamed up with Believe in the Run. I was thinking about defecting to an alternative podcast. I had a lot of time. They had great seats. My pass got me into that section of the stand, so we were right by the finish line again.
How's your pass rate?
And yeah, there was a copious.
Yeah, I just got a scanner.
There was a copious supply of ice cold beer in 30 plus degrees and 90% humidity, so I took advantage.
Meanwhile, I bought a fan yesterday. So me and Rick were swapping fans. His is smaller but more powerful. Mine is bigger and a prettier colour.
Yeah, it's amazing how powerful my fan is.
It really is. It's so tiny but so mighty.
What a day, though, at the track yesterday.
Oh,
I've got to say, it's probably my favourite day, I think, going down. Maybe because of our seats of where we were behind the steeplechase for Mondo Duplantis.
Pole vault.
In the pole vault. But also the steeplechase was amazing, the 1,500 metres.
Hurdles, we were right on the start line.
You could see the height of the hurdles, which is 106 centimetres, which happens to be two rulers shorter than Owen.
Our producer.
Yeah.
So good. Rick, yesterday, I think one of the best quotes ever has come from you.
He was deep in thought, wasn't he? We couldn't quite work out what he was doing.
So you edited the podcast, sent it over, Owen was uploading it, and then you were still on your laptop. And all of us in the room had the same thought of what could he possibly be doing? His work's done for the day. Andy just turned to you and went, "What are you looking at, mate?" And you just went, just oshikatsu. I'm learning about anime fetish. So,
which you then went and explored, right?
Yeah, how was your day?
You went on after you'd spent the morning or into early afternoon with us. You then went and just got on a train to a totally different area of Tokyo to go and explore anime, I think.
Yeah. So oshikatsu, which is basically supporting your favorite anime and fan lifestyle.
It's like extreme fandom, isn't it?
Yeah, so you buy badges, tokens, and what I discovered, I went to the biggest anime store in the world, which is 8 stories of anime, and it's got stuff like Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, One Piece Pirates, which turn out is the biggest game in the world when it comes to books, reading. And when I say CDs and DVDs, we think 20 years ago, there is a massive comeback of this stuff in Japan. And like even for 16, 17, 18-year-olds, I was there, they were like, no, we like the physical form when it comes to anime. So they go and they buy their favorite characters,
I remember
DVD selection or book selection, and they'll collect those books. And there might be, 15 books in that collection. And they'll just be buying more and more merch, and they'll build rooms around their famous oshikatsu character. And I just really wanted to kind of get in that lifestyle and kind of understand what it was about. And it was fascinating, not from just the point of buying the collection and the gear, but also you can go and see films about your individual favorite character. And there are also displays of the biggest oshikatsu characters and your favorite otaku, which is kind of your personality that comes on it. And this department store was just absolutely chock-a-heaving with people. And I spent the day there, and then I went to an oshikatsu cafe where I'm not into gaming in the slightest, and where they go and game against similar characters in similar worlds or books or whatever they're into. And I just played Pokemon games in this cafe for an hour.
It sounds like that in my children's dream.
And then they bring you food and drink, which has the same color of your otaku, your character. So if your favorite otaku or oshikatsu is bright blue, they'll bring you a drink that's bright blue. And it was just a fascinating day.
This is so cool.
Yeah.
Love it.
We were in ASICS House yesterday, which is the hospitality centre in the Japanese Olympic Museum. And Rick, you got to try out a tea ceremony. You got taught how to make tea properly. Is this right?
Yeah, matcha.
Yeah, and I realised after about 3 minutes that I can't control my own fingers.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. So there's like a really specific way. So we were filming and watching Rick learn how to do it. And there's a really specific way that you were supposed to hold the kind of spoon ladle to get the powder out of the matcha. Then there was the way that you were supposed to hold cups and bowls.
And the mixer.
He just really couldn't get it. Like really had zero control over his hands.
Just inappropriate fingering in the tea ceremony.
And then there is a way that you have to hold. I can't believe you said that. There is a way you have to hold your bowl properly.
Yeah, because it's disrespectful to drink from the face of the bowl.
Okay.
But Rick had a particularly all of the other bowls around the table, it was really obvious where the face was, whereas Rick had one where it was like a ribbon wrapped around the
My face had a
entire
mask
bowl,
on it.
and you were just spinning it for so long, being like,
trying to find the right way to drink it.
I can't drink this.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the class that we went to yesterday?
Well, I had never thought I would make a chopstick in my life.
No, I'd never even thought about the process of making a chopstick.
No, I hadn't either, actually.
But I surprised you with this little treat yesterday, where we got to go in the region where our little podcast setup is here in Tokyo, to a special workshop to use Japanese hand tools to craft some chopsticks from some small blocks of wood.
Yeah, it was very, very cool.
I don't think most people appreciate the work that goes into making a pair of chopsticks. I will never look at a pair the same again.
It's a lot of sanding.
It's a lot of sanding.
I would say polishing.
And using the kana, the Japanese hand plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
oiling.
And actually different types of sandpaper as well. You know, the rough stuff to the thin stuff.
Different types of wood.
Yeah.
What I would say as well is, so we had like a selection of lots of different pieces of wood that we could choose. Me and Rick, I think Andy as well, all went for the cheapest option because we were like, well, we don't know how this is going to go.
Let's not waste some sort of...
I'm envisaging this snapping in half, so let's just see. And then what they said at the start was like, just be careful, because if you shave too much off, there's no putting it back.
Yeah.
So what me and Rick ended up with, I think, really listening to that line clearly.
That's why I my hair, actually.
Very thick chopsticks.
Mine look like a pair of Skittles.
Meanwhile, Owen and Tom really shaved theirs down to the point where they've kind of got knitting needle thickness.
Tom's good with his hands.
Tom was in his element.
But he right at the beginning, when you got to pick the type of wood that he went for this rare Japanese oak redwood.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, mate, you've got to be confident if you're picking those sticks.
But then did you see what happened halfway through? So we were using this like shaver thing to like file it down a little bit. And I think Tom's bit of wood that he had just like basically couldn't be shaved, or the one that they'd given him was a bit too blunt. Anyway, he ended up with not a great looking piece of wood, and they were like, don't worry, we'll swap that out for you.
Oh, really?
And he was like, thank you very much.
Yeah, they were brilliant in there. They looked after us. They gave us a kind of distinctions between the different wood, showed us how to do it. There were various different stages to the process. It was a lot of fun.
It was so good.
A lot of fun glancing over at all of you guys as well, making a bit of a hash of it.
1,500 meters. Jakob Ingebrigtsen didn't make it through.
Oh, that was dramatic.
So we've sort of jumped ahead, haven't we? We were at the track yesterday, but we're going to start with the 1,500 meters because we've just watched it this morning. This is the morning of day 2 as we're recording.
So dramatic. So you have the heats first with the 1,500 meters, then it will move to the semi-finals, then it will have the finals. The heats are kind of just a formality for lots of people. We were expecting so many of the runners to just sail on through, and then we'll see them at the semi-final. But Ingebrigtsen, 8th. Yeah,
and I was talking to one of my friends who's involved. He's an agent in World Athletics, and he was saying he thinks the middle distance qualifying is the hardest, almost like the hardest phase of the championships, because it's. I mean, one of the big things is there's nothing to win and everything to lose.
Yeah.
You don't gain anything by going really fast and really hard. You don't win any medals at this stage. But if you're not in the next round, you don't even get the chance to win the medals. Yeah. That's the pressure that I felt in the first rounds.
And there's no what we've referred to previously as like fastest loser, where essentially like in other distances they might take the top 3 from each of the heats, and then the fastest next 3 people from across all of the heats then go through to the semi-final. So then you do want quite a fast time, because then you're in the running even if you're not top. Whereas for this, it was the top 6. So you're kind of in a difficult position, and we saw lots of different athletes doing it where they don't necessarily need to win the heat, but if you're towards the back, if you're around the kind of 5-6 zone, you're really in danger.
Yeah, isn't that nice? I thought it was quite nice that it was just clean cut. So there were 4 heats, and the top 6 went through from every single heat. There was no repechage, which was second chance that they had last year at the Olympics in Paris. And it wasn't a case of, like you say, fastest loser. People were just in it. They were dipping for the line because it was all or nothing.
Which is what a brutal... You train all year, and then in less than 4 minutes, gone.
Well, yeah, we were talking about that yesterday as well. Imagine, like, plenty of people come out and they run the 100 meters. So they run for 11 seconds or 10 seconds and don't make it through the heats, and then that's it. You've traveled all the way across the world for 10 or 11 seconds. You do the pole vault. There were some guys that in the men's pole vault qualifying last night that didn't clear a height. And so it's cutthroat. That's kind of the point. But yeah, Jakob Ingebrigtsen's missed the whole outdoor season this year. So I think this was almost his first race, was in the heats of the men's 1,500. But I think he's so good that everyone just assumed he would
go through.
Yeah. But what was interesting for me, he did his usual and he set off right at the back. But actually, the people at the front were making it a little bit more honest, a little bit earlier than he expected. And then when he normally just coasts through so smoothly from the back. But when he did that with 2 laps to go, you could it was a real effort for him. He looked different to how he normally used to look running. And then by the time it came around to the bell and he's got 400 to go, he actually looked tired already at that point. And you can't, we're going to talk about her later in the week, but Keely Hodgkinson from Great Britain also had an injury for the last year and came out and then set this stellar world lead. But that's not normal. It's not normally what you can do. You feel rusty after even if you've been doing time trials and training and all the stuff you've done.
She's not normal.
Well, I mean, she is a superstar, but so is Jakob. So I think that's why you think that even despite the injury, he wouldn't put himself on the start line if he couldn't make it through. But he's out, but he will be back later in the week for the 5K. And then Habs from France got knocked out in Heat 1 as well. He's the world number 1 this year in terms of just on time. He ran 3:27.
Brutal.
So the idea of someone running what's one of the top 10 fastest times in history for 1,500 meters and then going to the World Championships and going out in the first round is pretty much unheard of.
Yeah, and they ran 3:35, I think, in his heat. So he had it in him.
Yeah, they did start very, very slowly though. So and that's the beauty, depending on where you sit on this. Like I know that my family used to hate watching the rounds of the 1,500 meters because they are so tactical. People are jogging and tripping over each other, and you go through the first 800 in, those guys were outside 2 minutes, I think, through the first 2 laps. And bear in mind, in the Diamond Leagues, they'll have a pacemaker that will take them out in the first 800 in about very close to 150. So you're 10 seconds, the best part of, 70 meters slower than you would normally be.
Yeah.
And then it just accelerates and accelerates. And then sometimes that comes in surges. Sometimes it comes just like every 100 meters get faster, depending on who's at the front and who has the ability to do that. And that's I loved that. And I loved just being in the mix. And sometimes you felt confident, sometimes you felt nervous, but I always felt good once I was out on the track and just in the mix, and you just have to give it a go and trust your kind of instincts.
Andy and Jakob Ingebrigtsen, they're rarely in modern athletics mentioned in the same sentence.
However, I was going to say, what comparison are you drawing?
Never.
From now on, we can.
Right.
Because Andy Baddeley, British 1,500 metre runner, our friend, colleague, CEO, boss, leader.
Where's this going?
Organiser of the pay rises.
I was so uncomfortable.
He never, ever went out in the heats at a major championship.
Oh yeah, that was
in the 1,500 metres.
You quite smugly turned and said that to us.
Ingebrigtsen has. You are one up on Ingebrigtsen. There's been a lot of highlights, I feel like, even in the first 2 days. And as much as I love the 1,500 metres, I've got to say, watching the final 400 metres of the women's marathon after they'd been out there for 2 hours and 24 minutes, they came in through the opening in the National Stadium, and then they do a lap of the track to finish. And there were 2 of them, best friends, I think they are as well, just going for the line.
They definitely had they had some love afterwards. I think they shared respect because you've just been through that really attritional heat, humidity. Yeah, it was Tigsta Sefer and Perez Jepchirchir came into the stadium neck and neck after 26 miles. It's so crazy that it comes down to that.
They were bunny hopping each other around the track. Like I thought we were going to see one surge, and they enter the whole time we were waiting for them in the stadium. They were announcing they'll be here in 10 minutes, they'll be here in 5 minutes. Me and Andy were trying to work out which bit of the stadium do they come through, because there's a bit that was labelled Marathon Gate, but they had a big bit of basically
like the electronic advertising boards were in front of it, and it didn't look like you could make a break in
then magically they opened them like a door.
It was very slick.
So then they came through and they had a good kind of 300, maybe more, 350 meters to go round. First there was a surge, then there was another surge, and then there was a final surge. So it was almost as exciting as a 400 meter race.
And it's interesting just maybe talking about the atmosphere in the stadium. It was not so busy this morning. The morning sessions are generally less busy, and I think people were still out on the course having supported the marathons. Tokyo had really come out in force to support the marathon. They love road running in Japan. But compared to Paris, I think it's a slightly different type of noise. So it's busy. It's somehow, I don't know, it's less like raw and visceral than it was in Paris when the French athletes were announced. It's still really loud, but it's, I don't know, slightly more polite.
I also loved how loads of people had been out on course and then were rushing into the stadium to see the final bit as well. But what a finish. That was so dramatic.
I want to talk about something slightly different around the hundreds. The semi-finals, it's one of the unusual events because there's not many times that you do the same event an hour or an hour and a half apart. So they run the semi-finals and then they have an hour and a half to then get ready and come back out for the final. Yeah. And it's really cutthroat. It's incredibly, I would argue it's, for the people at that level, the top level, it's relatively easy to get through the heats in the 100 and then very, very difficult to get out of the semi-finals and into the final. So that's where the pressure's on. Sarah and I have got these media credentials that allow us to go down into the mixed zone where all of the athletes have to pass through after they've run. And we decided we would try and we're fans and we wanted to be as close as we could to Melissa Jefferson Wooden, to Sha'Carri Richardson, to Dina Asher-Smith as they were going to come through, and then all the men as well after the semi-finals. So we decided we would go down and try and sort of film them come past or just be in the presence of greatness.
Because it's also incredibly likely that after the finals that it will just go to a press conference.
Yes,
is what we were told. So
we wouldn't get to see them.
Yeah, whereas like most people after the finals are weaving through all of the like various press agencies. Yeah. Unlikely to happen.
Yeah, and how it works after the semi-finals, which I don't think I'd realised before, is that the athletes that have automatically qualified that are going to be going into the final, they get kind of rushed through the mixed zone and they don't have to speak to any of the press because they need to be in the zone. They need to go and get ready to compete again. And so there was a little pen, a holding pen almost, of press liaisons from different countries. And there's some that generally work for the championships for countries that might not have their own press liaison. And the busiest guy at the track last night must have been the US press liaison. Because they had a lot of athletes qualifying for finals and their sole job is effectively to be a bodyguard / bouncer for athletes as they walk the gauntlet of the mixed zone, to basically stop them from having to answer any questions or talk to anybody. So he was basically just walking backwards and forwards past us with athlete after athlete, like, and with quite a stern look on his face, which
was he a unit?
He was he was probably
he was literally just like regular
like
people.
Andy.
Yeah,
he was actually built a bit like me.
Yeah, literally just like don't talk to this person.
But it just had the look on his face.
He had a look of don't mess.
Yeah.
Do not mess with me. So that was fascinating because I didn't know that role existed really. Because a lot of the time I think the press liaison is there almost in the background. You'd never see them as like a PR basically. So they're stopping athletes.
I know what you mean.
They'll step in if an interview gets too difficult. But this was more like, no, do not mess with my athlete.
I had a few press liaison officers step in from some questions that I used to ask.
I bet you did.
The Premier League. But some of them, like you say, are very passive, but others are very aggressive.
Yeah, they'll step in, not answer that. But I went down there, and then Sarah sent me a message. She said, I'm going to come down because he wanted to see Noah Lyles, right? Mm-hmm. And in fairness, I had a little fanboy moment because he walked past with his shirt off. So
yeah, which sounded great. So I wanted in on some of the action. Only trouble is, so where we were sitting was on level 1, and where the press like mix zone bit was just one floor below. It took me 45 minutes to find Andy.
It was also directly above.
Oh yeah, like directly
It was
below.
No more than 50 to 100 metres away from where we'd been sitting in the stadium.
I could have jumped and made it there quicker.
What happened?
Basically, how it works is that to get into the section, we have our like media passes, and you essentially have to go through.
I don't have one of those.
No, sorry.
No. Yeah, it's only for the real journalists.
Is we have like one of those fancy pass thingies, and then you go through a no exit, you go down a set of stairs out into like what feels like a car park, but you're just in the kind of outer
where you get to see
ring.
the glamorous car park wall that the athletes have signed.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest names in the world have signed it.
And then you're there. I couldn't find the door because previously I think we'd been a floor up where it's a lot more obvious. So I was trying to find this door. Couldn't find it. Basically did like a full lap of the stadium, and I kept looking because where like all the food vendors are as well, I was looking out onto the track to get my bearings because I knew if I got past the home straight I'd gone too far. I was literally on the other.
Managed it.
Oh yeah, I was on the other side of the track. I got distracted. I was texting you, being like, "How on earth do I get here?" Anyway, eventually I asked a volunteer who was so lovely, and I was like, "Please don't make me walk any further. Like I've walked so far, and I was exactly where I needed to be. I just needed to go down.
Right.
So I was like, all I need to do is go down. How do I do this?" He eventually was like, "Okay, come with me." Put me in a lift and was like, "Just go down, and then you're there." So I get in this lift, go down. The doors open. All I can see is just white walls, no labels, no nothing. I'm literally in like a service exit, and then I just see 4 doors, none of which are labeled. Now, wouldn't have panicked. However, on the BTS tour that we'd done earlier in the day, the door to the warm-up track was literally just a blank white door. Like you honestly wouldn't have known what was on the other side. So I was like, gosh, am I going to open a door and like be on the track, or am I going to open a door and just walk into something that I should not see? Because we have a press pass, but it's very like restricted. We can't go in all the areas. And I was like, I am about to get in trouble here. Anyway, I opened the door. I'm in the right section. I open it out onto the car park bit, and I'm like, sweet. And now I just need to walk around to where Andy is. I could not have been further away. So on my walk to try and find Andy, I was like, I'm at H. Where are you? Andy's at B. I was like, okay, fine. I will walk down. Then a bus comes alongside me, and then off the bus stops. Yeah. There's like a few people around who are clearly looking at me like, well, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I don't know. I should not be here. Very awkward. The bus stops. People start to get out, and it is the entire 1,500 metre cohort who are about to step up and race their semi-final heats. And I was...
Andy, don't let her out on her own.
I didn't know that.
Don't let her out.
It was horrific. Yeah. And then people mistook me for part of the team. So they were like, oh, you need to go on to the 4th floor if you're part of the 1,500 metre team. And I was like, I am not part of this. So then I ended up coming into the mix zone through the like no entry bit. And Andy was like, oh, did you go in that bit? And I was like, yeah. Traumatized.
Oh God.
Shall we talk about marathon?
Oh, wow.
Men's marathon, both marathons now have ended in pretty much a sprint finish, and the men's marathon a photo finish where it was 0.03 between the first and second place, which was a smaller gap than in the 100 metres.
Yeah, than either of the 100 metres.
Yeah, so it was Petros from Germany who was leading coming into the stadium, but then Simbu from Tanzania took goal right on the line.
But it didn't look like he was going to.
You couldn't see it.
I predicted it.
Yeah,
I said...
you did, but then...
I was like,
it was the last stride.
He was the only one out of the top 3. He was the only one not really grimacing on the back straight.
Just looked
so
like
I
he
was
had
like,
it.
he looks in control. I think it's just deciding when you're going to make that surge. But actually, the winner, he almost took a wrong turn going into the stadium.
Yeah, so if he hadn't had that... Well, you never know, though. Sometimes something like that, when you're so tired at the end of a race, maybe you get that big surge of adrenaline from, oh my God, have I messed it up? So to see them come into to the stadium stride for stride, there were 3 of them, then it went down to 2 in the last 200 metres, really. It's crazy over that distance, but that's the magic of a championship marathon as opposed to kind of a pace-make, big city major marathon where they're all going to run 2:02, 2:03.
Yeah, it's nice and tactical.
Yeah, we've got a person amongst us here, haven't we, Sarah, who I think considers himself to be the ultimate showman. And he wants to put himself to the test here. He said to us beforehand, right, guys, give me 60 seconds in the middle of the podcast, and I'm going to do a quick fire, as many stats about Mondo Duplantis, because he's my hero. And also, obviously we're talking about Rick Kelsey here.
Sarah?
Who has also come dressed in yellow in homage to the Swedish kit.
Do you want the full 60 seconds? Is quite a long time, mate.
Yeah.
But you know what? This will be funny. Ready?
I'll give you what I can.
3, 2, 1, go.
Mondo Duplantis, a Swedish superstar, but not Swedish, born in Louisiana in the United States to Swedish parents, but chose to represent Sweden because of his family. He also has a sister, Johanna, who's 22 years old, who's also a professional steeplechaser. He has 14 world records, of which he has done 4 in 2025. Last night, he won a bonus $100,000 on top of the $70,000 in gold prize money for beating the world record. He is the first man to retain an Olympic gold. He last lost at a major championship in 2019. He's now pole vaults 80 centimeters higher than the height of an average giraffe, which is 5.5 meters. He's only 25 years old. How high can he go? Edit. This is Rick from after the podcast, just making the point that his sister is actually a pole vaulter too, not a steeplechase runner. Back to the show.
Can we just quickly touch on the steeplechase before moving on? So earlier in the week, we might have mentioned it. You definitely will have seen pictures of this. Beamish, who won gold in the men's steeplechase, had an absolutely terrifying experience where he fell after going over a jump and ended up with someone's foot literally just
grazing his face,
grazing over his face. He did what can only be described as a superhero role, managed to get back up and made it through into the either semi-final or final. The
final is only 2 rounds of the steeplechase.
Made it through to the final. And then did one of the most incredible last laps of a race I've ever seen. And I remember I turned to Rick and I said, that was the guy who got stamped on.
In the heats.
I think he's got something here. And he was so far back, spent the majority of the race really, really far back. And then in the last lap, managed to pick off every single person to go from like third to first in the last few seconds.
And that, I would say, is the loudest that we've heard the stadium all week.
Oh, it was. I think it was very much helped by the fact that there was also a Japanese athlete
who was in medal
really
contention, heading into the final water jump. And then Al-Bakkali, who's been broadly unbeatable in championship steeplechases, hit the lead, and I thought, well, that's it, that's done. Yeah. And then Geordie Beamish from New Zealand, it was the most incredible last 100 metres. And it was hairs on your arms, on the back of your neck moment, wasn't it? And just of how loud it was. And just, it was really exciting.
World athletics needs these superstars like Faith Kipyegon and Mondo Duplantis, doesn't it, to keep up with other sports and try and fill stadiums. I mean, the stadium here in Tokyo is 68,000. It's been full, close to full on most nights, but it wasn't full last night. And it needs these superstars to boost it as a global sport, especially when you see, some of the problems that you've got in the day-to-day, week-to-week track competitions that, we've had we thought some leagues were going to take off. They've not as much as we thought. So they need the big events, the Olympics, the World Championships, to have superstars to drag more people into the sport.
Yeah. Speaking of superstars, should we talk about the 400 metre semi-final?
Yes. The women's 400 metres, Sydney McLaughlin-Lavroni from the US is usually a 400 metre hurdler. And so I've got a brilliant bit of context for how good she is. So she's decided, she won the Olympics in a world record last year in Paris, and her world record of 50.37 for the 400 metre hurdles, so bear in mind she's got to jump over 10 barriers over 400 metres in those, is 50.37. It's pretty hard to qualify for World Championships in any event. You've got to be one of the best 40 or so athletes in the world. Her 400 metre hurdles time from the Paris Olympics last year would have qualified her for the 400 metre flat in the World Championships this year, the qualifying being 50.75.
I mean, that's just showing off, isn't it?
Yeah. So if
that's a bit much.
Yeah, that's a nuts way of thinking about how fast she is. And then she ran 48.29 to cruise to win in her semi-final. Third fastest time in World Champs history, seventh fastest time in history ever.
Just want to squeeze in the men's 110 metres final. We were right back on the starting line for this one, weren't we? And another medal for the USA, Cordell Tinch, and he had the big American announcer bigging him up before he went out.
I mean, he felt like he was on some kind of, like I said, X Factor.
Yeah. Me and Owen actually went right down to watch as they came over the first hurdle, and that was fascinating. I put it up on Instagram stories because I took a slow-mo, and there was one person who didn't even jump the first hurdle, which you don't really think about, but it's so hard to get your foot pattern right from going off in the blocks to then jumping that first hurdle, and that must be so crushing to be like your race is over in the first jump.
Right, let's get on to it. It's a 1500 metre. It was the men's first medal for Team GB, Jake Whiteman. What a race.
Oh, it was so exciting to watch. Andy, go on. You're bursting at the seams.
I am bursting. The thing to try to put across is when I watch the 1500, it's a totally different, like really visceral, emotional experience for me because I have been in it. And there's a part of me that sort of would like to be, but also a part of me that's really traumatized by my past experience trying to do it and knowing what they're going through. So you guys witness it every year. Actually, I was the only one with a ticket last year to Paris to watch the 1500. And so I was sort of left shaking in the stands on my own. Sarah instead put a microphone and a camera in my face to watch and record my reaction as I was watching it. But I do find it exciting, compelling, but also overwhelming for me. And it took me hours to get to sleep afterwards last night, as if I'd been racing myself.
I spoke to Neil Gawley straight after the race because I wanted to get his opinion on what it's like to be in that environment. So Josh Kerr, who was Andy's favourite to win, all of us kind of anticipated him to have a medal of some sort. He picked up a calf injury in the race, and so that was the kind of first shock that happened.
But we didn't know that either. We didn't know what had happened to him. You could see him almost jump up in the air, and it looked like he'd been stepped on or he'd stepped on something, and then he hobbled his way around. And
still finished though, which is incredible, and he got cheered in. And it's so heartbreaking to watch because it's not a long race, and it's like if your calf could have just held on for like 3 minutes.
And I haven't seen any statements. No idea what's happened, so it's pure speculation. But what was interesting for me is you see interviews with Josh. He's an incredibly confident person. He's won the World Championships before. I don't know whether he was carrying something whether he picked something up in training or because the way he went about the first few laps of the race he didn't stamp his authority on the race at all. He was unusually boxed in way towards the back of the field and not really using his physicality or whatever. So that could be me reading something into something that doesn't exist. But it just it was interesting to see him not kind of impose himself and just chill out, which isn't usually his thing.
We knew it was going to be an unexpected race though, because Ingebrigtsen hadn't made it to the final, so there was no kind of predictability of what was going to happen. What did end up happening is that Jake Whiteman was so close. I think it was like 0.02 away from winning gold. But to see his comeback from 2022 when he last won the world champs to then being injured for multiple years and then to come back and win silver was amazing. But first, I spoke to Neil Gawley and wanted to ask him how did it feel to be in a race that was so unpredictable? He gave a great answer, which was actually like, well, that's what we prepare for. So a lot of the stuff he didn't even realise was happening. You kind of just have your blinkers on and you run your own race. But he did say that he was a little bit disappointed with the result. So
he finished 10th, right?
Yeah. So I think, we were doing it as well. All three Brits were talked about in one breath as kind of like medal contenders.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask him was probably a question that I always want to know, because I've definitely had races where you come away feeling a bit disappointed. I know we've heard from you guys, loads of people will be preparing for races right now. You never know how a race is going to go. So I asked Neil, what does he tell himself when he comes away from a race disappointed, and how does he kind of pick himself back up?
My usual rule is to be disappointed, angry, frustrated, whatever it is, for 24 hours and just allow that, and that's fine. But then make a cut off, 24 hours, 48 hours later, and then you have to drop it. So be as frustrated as you want for that initial bit, and then drop it, because there's nothing you can do at that point. You have to have a short-term memory sometimes, and it is good to have some fuel from bad races, but dwelling on it doesn't help, and you need to move on.
I've been there. I've been exactly where Neil was. I've gone into a championships, and you always hope that things are going to go your way. And you have the confidence that you've built up from training and racing. And that's what I'd be saying to anyone listening to this. You might be thinking, how's this 1,500 meters, 3 3/4 laps of the track? How's that relevant to me? But it's the experience that all athletes go through is you do your best possible training, and then you take that confidence from training into it. And Neil had got a silver medal at the World Indoors this year, so his first global medal over 1,500 meters. So it was an outside medal shot, because indoors doesn't always transfer. But then you go in just hoping things will go your way. And the brilliant thing about the 1,500 meters from a spectator's perspective is that you genuinely don't always know what's going to happen. And compared to the women's, where it was a bit of a procession with no one really being able to take on faith, yesterday, at one point or another in the race, almost everybody had a chance of winning, and we didn't know which way it was going to go.
Let's hear from the man himself, though, who, despite missing out on gold by 0.02 of a second, was absolutely buzzing when Andy spoke to him. And Jake Whiteman, Andy asked him after he got his silver medal, how dark has it been in the long road back?
I've almost got like PTSD. I generally think like my head has processed so much, and I haven't really appreciated that until this summer's not been the best for me, like mentally. I found it like very overwhelming being back racing and coming to championships, and it's just felt like a long time since I've done it, because it has been. But I've loved these champs. I've just come into it feeling like a different athlete than I have done all season, and I just came here knowing that like I could run with this freedom that nobody else really had. Like everyone in that final probably either was like really happy to be there, or they had like so much pressure that they had to get a medal. Whereas like I was like, I hope to get this far, but I'm just going to go out there and try and do everything I possibly can. And that's what I did.
Did it feel like it was going your way, the way that the heats, semi-finals and then final panned out? You looked so comfortable in all of them, and then it sort of like looked like it was coming together.
I felt good. I knew that I was going to have a chance. I just knew I was going to do something. I said that before I went in. I was like, I'm going to try and win this, and that's what I did. I tried to win it, and I nearly did.
I think I heard your dad come in and give you the splits, actually, for the last 100 metres.
12-3 for Nada, which is like, what am I going to do? I made my move, and I've got a silver medal.
And then we're in Japan, the home of karaoke. Do you have a go-to karaoke song?
I've actually been booed off a stage for singing it, but erase your little respects. Yeah, because I butchered it, and then no one was impressed. And it was on a night out with quite a lot of athletes, and it was Tom Bosworth said like, oh, if in doubt, take your top off, because I think we were in a gay bar at the time, and he said, oh, like everyone will love that in here. And I took my top off, and straight away the security guard said, like, if you don't put that back on, you're out. So middle of the song, I was fumbling my t-shirt back on, and we left very swiftly after that.
Hey, karaoke.
Oh, there was a bit of everything in there, wasn't there?
It was, yeah.
So good. Now, last year in Paris for the Olympics, we were learning how ASICS is an acronym for sound mind, sound body. And so each day we've been delving into a different topic related to the well-being of our bodies and minds. And Rick, yesterday you went along to ASICS House to have such an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I met with the bronze medalist from the marathon, Ilias Ioni, and he told me how he deals with intrusive thoughts.
I'm strict. Just shut the up and run. I'm like that. I'm just like that. Just shut up and run. Like, and I was like, your dad is watching you. Your mom is watching you. You can't disappoint them. Like, they're waking up early just to watch you. I mean, you can't disappoint them. So just run, and don't think about all like these wrong inputs. It's just like your like the part of yourself that wants to keep you mediocre.
I always thought that as an elite athlete, you wouldn't experience the same things that kind of I've experienced in a marathon. And it is so comforting to know that even if you are in contention for a medal, your mind will still tell you, I'd kind of like to sit down right now.
I love how blunt he was.
So good. So inspiring.
Yeah, just normal people. We've been hanging out at the ASICS House most days, and it's really cool to see the athletes come in either before or mainly after their events to celebrate with the team there. We've been made to feel very welcome as well. So again, a massive thank you to ASICS for having us out here.
Adam from Wellingborough in Northamptonshire.
It's very specific.
Very
county
Northamptonshire.
location.
Yeah.
Up Northamptonshire.
He says, hi guys, have been out here in Tokyo for a week.
I've seen a few Running Channel fans, spoken to a couple of people running in the park. I did a little jog with one. And then also someone staying in our hotel who's actually not even here for the World Championships, but stopped us and asked us about the podcast.
Oh, no.
Well, just coincidentally.
Yeah.
Staying at the hotel. That is mad. So Adam says he's been on 2 runs so far. The difference between setting off at 7:30 in the morning and 6:15 was massive. I'm sure it is.
That's very exciting. I'm sure it is.
In terms of humidity and temperature. But I couldn't find any North London hills nearby. Actually, very flat.
It is very flat.
Very flat. So my question for you guys, having seen the women's 100 one in 10.61, which was a championship record, but not the world record, will we ever get to a stage where we see a woman break Flojo's 1988 performance?
Ooh, that is a great question. I always find though that the conditions aren't necessarily always the best. So I think that is a huge factor. However, for the sprints, I don't know if like the heat and the humidity will have a huge effect.
Yeah.
But I think we are getting closer.
However, I mean, you would have thought with all the enhancement of track and shoes that it's still not been beaten.
I think it's attritional
10:49 is the world record, and we were 10:61 yesterday.
Not a million miles off.
Interesting, 10:61 that Melissa Jefferson-Wooden ran yesterday was the joint fastest. So it was a championship record in the World Championships, but also the joint fastest major championship performance ever. And this other person that ran 10:61 ran it in 2021 in the same stadium on the same track.
Wow.
So that was Elaine Thompson-Herah.
I see. But I do think, I mean, we're talking about 30 years here, 35 years.
I think, though, when it comes to sprints, I mean, I'm not a sprinter, but do you think that it is more the athlete than the tech? Like, does the tech get better the longer that you run, which is why we're seeing loads of improvements in kind of middle distance, longer distance, marathon distance kit, but then when it comes to a sprint, you're fast. You need your reaction speed.
I think it's taken a little bit longer for the tech from the super shoes that work so well on the road to filter into sprint spikes. And now I think clearly this track is very fast. If you look at the 400 meter heats here, the 100 meter times that were run here as well, and the fact that people ran so fast in the Olympics in 2021, it's not just the shoes. I do think it's the track surface as well. And I think I can see a world where if they keep innovating in this way, and bear in mind Jefferson-Wooden had run a semi-final a few hours before. So if you came for a one-off race and had the perfect conditions, and you had exactly +2 of your win, so like a +2 meters per second is the legal limit for a world record. behind you for the wind. So I think if you had the perfect conditions, I can see that someone could beat that.
Sorry. So what we need to do is Rick needs to head down to the track with his little fan.
Yes.
And blow them in the right direction.
Perfect.
I think I saw that Oblique Seville, who won the men's 100 meters, wasn't actually running in true sprint spikes. So if you hold a pair of true sprint spikes, they are unbendable. So
because they're so stiff.
They're so stiff, and I think normal humans like us would find it almost impossible to run in them because they're so stiff. But I think he was running in middle distance spikes. So he wasn't even running in pure sprint spikes. So I think that perhaps is a reflection of the way technology is moving, because the difference there is they're probably slightly less stiff but have more foam and rebound and some kind of carbon plate combination. Yeah. So the question here, I don't know for sure, Adam, but
maybe
I could see it.
LA 2028. Are we going to see it?
Yeah, it's interesting that we talk now so much about the track condition and the track feel, make, design as much as we do about the shoes. Right, that was a cracking day.
Yeah, and lots more events to come up. So do keep emailing in podcast@therunningchannel.com if you have a question for us, and we will see you tomorrow.
Bye. Bye.